Going on, Blackish fam? I hope all is well in your corner of the world. Man, shout out to the comment section for putting me on new music. This is to one of our subscribers. I poop hard. Love the name, man. But he wanted me to check out the song Citronella. And I appreciate everybody who's been giving me. I didn't know if it was Aesop Rock or Aesop Rock. Seem to get a little bit of both, but I'm more comfortable calling him Aesop. Man, really excited to get into some new music. If you're new to the channel, man, subscribe, show us some love. If you're here to hear the song, this probably isn't the best channel for you because we try to break down as much as we can. I really like to dive into the lyrics, and man, with Aesop Rock, I have no clue if I'm even on the right page, right track, but it's actually kind of fun to break it down and see what he's really saying, especially with something so dense lyrically. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. His music by far has been the most complex, and I love some Lupe Fiasco or some Toby Wigway, or getting even to some more of the commercial artists, Logic, Kendrick Lamar. But Aesop Rock is just on a different level. I'm sure it's probably intellectually, but just his vocabulary is so just off the walls, and it's so hard to know what the context of it. It sounds like he's writing something and jumping. Definitely somebody that I think it would be interesting to just smoke a joint with. Just to see how his mind works. So I'm definitely becoming a fan. But I've only really gotten into the Garbology album, and what was it? Pizza Alley, Daylight. So there's only a few. I'm pretty new in my journey. So if you guys have any suggestions about albums or specific songs I should check out, let me know. I'm definitely loving the music and having fun with some of these breakdowns. So let's get into Citronella. Man, I hope this lyric video is right. Ooh. What fresh air is this? All right. That beat is set. Okay, I wasn't ready for that. the using some sort of cutters to the pie through your summers in the sky. Oh shit. Yo, it kind of reminds me of Eminem and was it Eminem and Busta? Very Exhibit like beat. Ooh. Now that beat kind of caught me off guard. That's probably one of the sicker beats I've heard in a while. Even with what is that? What did he say? Something doesn't exist. It was whispered. What fresh air is this? I didn't catch it. I'm getting old. Got those grandpa ears. That's so very it sounds very Christopher Columbus to me. At first I stood before the glittery borders of New Radius. Right? It's like, hear ye, blessed be thy king. Right? But yeah, let's let it ride. But it sounds like he's exploring something. Stood before the right, he's standing before. He's going into, I don't know if it's in the literal sense, but he's about to explore something new. Fabled City of Mud. Crushed Velvet, okay. Well, I mean, Crushed Velvet, it originates in Venice, right? I don't know. Trying to think. I mean, I guess I think of uh, when you talk about crushed velvet, I typically think sort of royalty, right? I think Europe, I guess during the Renaissance, China, India, uh, but fabled city of mud, that has me thinking, and it sounds bad, but I immediately think of like Middle East or um, I just think of like ruins. It sounds bad to say. I think of like war torn country. See, that also sounds very old school, almost biblical, right? Where he said meets the lust and blood and demerits. What I found, right? Let me run that back. I think he said, yeah, it's a gutter. So there's some gutter. It might be a war torn place, right? Some kind of horrible place with the love of entertainment. It kind of makes reminds me of that. What is that? Sodomy, right? Something from the Bible. But when somebody says demerits, right? Bad things, right? Tobacco, alcohol, addictive substances, right? Porn. Those are like what they call demerit goods. So uh, these are things that are normally taxed by government, but are also looked down upon by society. If you don't know what the meaning of it is. Borders and new radius in search of the city of mud and crushed velvet. What I found was a gutter with another entertainment meets the lust for blood and demerits. Cutters to the pie, through your summers in the sky. Collar pop, Jolly Roger, die, motherfucker. What I found was a gutter with another entertainment meets the lust for blood and demerits. Cutters to the pie, through your summers in the sky. Okay, cutters of the pie, right? Those are normally people that are some sort of control. They have control over you. They're the ones in charge of your piece of the pie, right? Your piece of the American dream, your piece of the middle class, whatever it might be. Cutters to the pie, throw your summers in the sky. Throw your summers in the sky. That typically means, well, I mean, I guess there could be a lot of meanings, but throwing something in the sky, it normally means the pieces they'll land where they land. Let kind of like leave it to fate. Throw your summer in the sky is like it's a very questionable what's going to happen. Collar pop. Now that's kind of an interesting sequence. Throw your summers in the sky. Wait, what did he say first? Cutters to the pie, throw your summers in the sky. Collar pop is normally somebody, at least here in the Midwest. I'm just outside of Chicago. The kids that were popping their collars first. First, it was cool because it was different, but then it became very prickish, very Abercrombie, very loser, very trying too hard. Right? You're probably also the dude that's got the extra small, right? The medium, right? With the too much arm showing so you look bigger. Oh, lame ass. No, but that's normally somebody who has a big ego, kind of a prickish person. Um, but let's hear it in context again. Cutters to the pie, throw your summers in the sky. Collar pop, Jolly Roger, die, motherfucker, die. Apache you on a ship shaping Bristol fast. Okay, he's talking military. Tiptoe past them. Ship shaping Bristol. Cutters to the pie, throw your summers in the sky. Collar pop. Okay, so he's talking about something that's militant, but it sounds like he's talking about a certain group of people. So this group of people, they have an ego, but he says Jolly Roger die. For those of you that don't know, Roger's the simplest way to put it is the pirate flag, right? The skull and bones flag. So he's talking about some pirates, people that are, taking over, bringing harm, robbing the poor, right? But he also says, "Die, motherfucker, die." Jolly Roger, die, motherfucker, die. So, we have to say it sounds like he's not, he's identifying this group of people, but he's against them or against what they're doing, is my best take so far. Let's let it ride. Cutters to the pie, throw your summers in the sky. Collar pop, Jolly Roger, die, motherfucker, die. Apache on a ship shape in Bristol fashion. Snuck a jammy through the red tape and tip. Cutters to the pie, throw your summers in the sky. Collar pop, Jolly Roger, die, motherfucker, die. Apache on a ship shape. Ship shape? Yeah. Apache, okay. So when I hear Apache, I'm automatically, my mind, because of the military references so far, I'm thinking of an Apache helicopter, right? You can imagine it kind of refueling on a large ship that it can take off from. That's the imagery that I get. The Bristol fashion, that's kind of that's a weird thing to say, but it's definitely military. You're talking about something that these ships have to be neat, clean, painted, scrub surfaces, polished. This is what they call ship shape, right? Bristol fashion. It's how would you say in this? It's arranged properly. It looked like somebody had OCD, right? Yeah, they're very very well organized. Shape in Bristol fashion. Snuck a jammy through the red tape and tiptoed past them. Ship shape in Bristol fashion. Snuck a jammy through the red tape. A jammy. I don't know what a jammy is. Maybe that's something that's specific to his neck of the woods or so, but maybe we'll get more context by letting it ride. Red tape, I immediately think of police tape, but that's normally, even if it's not, most people would say yellow tape. Red tape would to me mean a murder, or I would think of like in the business world, right? Cutting through the red tape. That's normally something you're talking about politics, right? And tiptoed past them. Let it ride a little bit. Tape in Bristol fashion, snuck a jammy through the red tape and tiptoed past them. Worm teeth grinding, feverishly below. His little organic hacksaws eager to feed and grow. So when his Black Hawk over the glass walk, they surface up through the cash crops. Clippers for your belly up, mascots and never dine alone. They surface up through the cash crops. Clippers for your belly up, mascots and never dine alone. Warm teeth. That's kind of like an old saying, and it's funny because he's referencing pirates here. But pirates are not known for their cleanliness, their hygiene. In fact, they used to actually think that worms were in their mouth, and they had something called worm teeth, but not warm in that sense. There's also something called hot teeth, but normally it was just scurvy. But this is very, very common. Probably one of the most complex I've ever broken down of his. Just the wordplay is sick, and I'm hoping the lyrics are right. Organic hacksaws eager to feed and grow. So when it's Black Hawk over the glass walk, they surface up through the cash crops. So when it's Black Hawk over the glass walk, they surface up through the cash crops. I wish I had a better idea as to where he's talking about. I definitely see military, but it almost seems like a threat. When I say, so when it's Black Hawk over the glass walk, I'm looking at when this song was created, back in 2008, 2009. There was a completion of, what was it called? The Grand Canyon area has that glass walk. So I don't know. That's where my mind went first. But this is a very difficult part for me. Maybe when I hear a bit more of the song, I can jump back to this. But the first thing that I see is when it's a Black Hawk over the glass walk, like almost like when the fight goes to your own backyard, XYZ. But I don't really know what he's talking about. Through the cash crops with clippers for your belly up. Belly up typically means bankrupt, mascots, and never dine alone. So I have the feeling this has something to do with the U.S. I don't know if it's the U.S. military or if he's talking about a war somewhere. With the earlier reference of the earlier reference about the city of mud. This is like I wish I could phone a friend, right? But city of mud, I immediately think the war in Iraq, something with the Middle East. Let's see if we can identify a place. Let's let it ride a little bit and we'll jump back. That beat is just sick.
Cutters to the pie, throw your summers in the sky. Collar pop, Jolly Roger die, motherfucker die. Apache on a ship shape in Bristol fashion. Snuck a Jimmy through the red tape and tiptoe past him. Apache on a ship shape in Bristol fashion. Snuck a Jimmy through the red tape and die. Apache on a ship shape in Bristol fashion. Snuck a Jimmy through the red.
I think he's saying Jimmy. Like a Jimmy, a Slim Jim. That's what we call him in Chicago. It's a way to bust something open. Typically, you just put, if you're in an older car, you get the part that's part rubber between the glass, and you do it at an angle, and you're really trying to hit the locking mechanism of the door. And it basically just, we call it jimmying the car. You kind of look like you're beating off, but you have the Slim Jim, you're going in the door, and you're just trying to unhook hit the lock mechanism. Even if you don't have much experience, you could buy a $10 Slim Jim and eventually open a car. Before they were all computerized. But I'm glad we caught that. See, the lyrics are wrong in so many of these. It's kind of hard to decipher when you get stuck on something. It's like, no, I'm thinking jammies. Like, I'm thinking, pajamas.
Motherfucker die. Apache on a ship shape in Bristol fashion. Snuck a Jimmy through the red tape and tiptoe past him. Worm teeth grinding, be rubbishly below.
Scurvy.
Organic hacksaws, eager to feeding growth. So when it's Black Hawk over the glass walk, they surface up through the cash crops. Clippers for your belly up mascots and never dine alone. Meanwhile, back at sea level, it was home by home, zone for zone. Bloom County's homeless, riot for home ownership. I hope you put gas in the motorhome and know the roads. I studied with the finest comb stuck under my thumb, as opposed to the loaded nose who pray Armageddon is numb. And that's unevenly rendered to those who grew up thinking faith was the surrender of reason, but not a reason
Iraq,
to surrender.
or war.
Catch the Liberty Fires catalog, 40 torch orchids and citronella for Algernon.
Algernon. That's trying to play with nature, right? Trying to play like God. Flowers for Algernon, and we'll get back to that. So it definitely sounds like I would say this is some sort of military conflict. I'm trying to think, what was the not too much of a history buff, but I would say that this is regarding the war in Iraq, and just reading this, even Citronella, I think he's talking about the U.S. in this. I want to let it ride a little bit more, but it doesn't sound like this is in a good way. Homeless riot for home ownership. I hope you put gas in the motor home and know the roads. Almost sounds like if you imagine The Walking Dead or Fear the Walking Dead, right? When the drama is brought to your door, what are you going to do? He said, I hope you put gas in the motor home and you know the roads, right? That's just kind of funny. Bloom County, I don't know if a lot of people would catch that reference. Bloom County is it's a comic strip. It's an American comic strip. This has got to be, I was a child, so this had to be 80s. But it's very political. And they have this fake town that's supposed to be small town middle America. But it was a very political comic strip, if you would. But here, let's run it back. But he definitely sounds like he's talking about the war in Iraq. And I think I would imagine he's against the war. Let's let it ride quite a bit and jump back into it. I miss that in hip hop. Almost like a cool like that, a move like that, fresh like that. Let's say Iraq. and all the
Cutters to the pie, throw your summers in the sky. Collar pop, Jolly Roger, die, motherfucker, die. Apache on the summers in the sky.
wow, I didn't expect that. What if we're the kind of egomaniac pirates, right? Uh, let me just listen to it again.
Cutters to the pie, throw your summers in the sky. Collar pop, Jolly Roger, die, motherfucker, die. Apache on a ship shape in Bristol fashion. Snuck a Jimmy through the red tape and tiptoe past him. Worm teeth grinding, feverishly below. His little organic hacksaws eager to feed and grow. So when his black hawk over the glass wolf, they surface up through the cash crops. Clippers for your belly up mascots and never dine alone. Meanwhile, back at sea level, it was home by home, zone for zone. Bloom County's homeless, riot for homeowners.
Yeah, I think he's talking about the U.S. and just hearing what I heard about Algernon. It sounds like he sounds like us. He's talking about back at home, zone for zone. Bloom County's homeless, riot for home ownership. Sounds like he's talking about we have our own problems, right? We have our own issues, but we're going across the world trying to solve their problems. I think I'm on the right track. Let's let it ride a bit.
Ownership, I hope you put gas in the motor home and know the roads. I studied with the finest comb stuck under my thumb as opposed.
I don't know if a lot of people would get that, but I think he's talking about barbershop talk, right? He's talking about the studied, like he's kind of like what we would say is the school of hard knocks, if you would, right? I studied with the finest combs stuck under my thumb. Right. When you're a barber, you're trained to actually hold the comb a specific way. You hold it between the thumb, the index, and the middle finger. So I think he's talking about like barbershop talk. At least that's what I get on the first. This is my first listen.
To the loaded nose who pray Armageddon. I studied with the finest comb stuck under my thumb as opposed to the loaded nose who pray Armageddon is numb, and that's unevenly rendered to the.
Yeah, because I'm saying like I studied with. In barbershops in small towns, and I talk to real people as opposed to somebody who's the loaded nose. I'm thinking coked up, who pray Armageddon is numb. It kind of sounds like it would say that pray Armageddon is dumb.
Under my thumb as opposed to the loaded nose who pray Armageddon is numb, and that's unevenly rendered to those who grew up thinking faith was the surrender of reason, but not a reason to surrender. Catch the Liberty Fires catalog 40 toward, but not a reason to surrender. Finest comb stuck under my thumb as opposed to the loaded nose who pray Armageddon is numb, and that's unevenly rendered to those who grew up thinking faith was the surrender of reason, but not a reason to surrender. Catch the Liberty Fires catalog 40 torch orchids and Citronella for Algernon. Donna Vagabond like repent. This shit should have been Beta Burns, Babylon, the end. And when the radio stars climbed up out of the floors. And Citronella for Algernon. Donna Vagabond like repent. This shit should have been Beta Burns, Babylon, the end. And when the radio stars climbed up out of the floors to murder the media that shot him 30 years before they said reason, but not a reason to surrender. Clippers for your belly up mascots and never dine alone. Meanwhile, back at sea level, it was home by home, zone for zone. Bloom County's homeless, riot for home ownership. I hope you put gas in the motor home and know the roads. I studied with the finest comb stuck under my thumb as opposed to the loaded nose who pray Armageddon is numb, and that's unevenly rendered to those who grew up thinking faith was the surrender of reason, but not a reason to surrender.
I definitely feel like this could be about the Middle East. You think about their faith, a surrender of reason, but not a reason to surrender. About how strong their faith is in the Middle East. Where they say Allah Akbar.
Unevenly rendered to those who grew up thinking faith was the surrender of reason, but not a reason to surrender. Catch the Liberty Fires catalog 40 torch orchids and Citronella for Algernon. Donna.
And for those, I know we briefly touched on this. Citronella, for those that don't know, it's you normally have those citronella candles. They're meant to get away pests, right? Insects. But a lot of people don't realize you could use citronella for a variety of different things, including mice. They don't seem to like the scent. Algernon is actually the way I could think of it is it seems like he's trying to say stop trying to play God with nature, or play God in general. Um, you think about the Middle East. I think about Dick Cheney, George Bush. Uh, this kind of fake war, right? That we started with them. What were we looking for, right? We were looking for weapons of mass destruction. And it's just kind of ironic that Dick Cheney was the VP and he's the former CEO of Halliburton. And you look at the type of profits that would come his way if we started a war, let alone George Bush trying to um, get someone back for trying to kill his father. But there's a lot. If you look at the book Flowers for Algernon, it's a science fiction book. I can't think of the guy's name, Daniel something. But basically, it's about a mouse. The mouse has a surgery, and it's to increase his intelligence, and they just kind of play off that dynamic. So again, it goes for the what's right, right? It's almost like the kind of clone conversation. Is it okay to clone someone? Is it okay to boost someone's intelligence? Like you hear a lot of people doing IVF, and they say, is it okay to you choosing an eye color, certain traits? So he's definitely referencing that, I believe. And even though this is very difficult to get his exact meaning with, so like catch the Liberty Fires catalog, just can't seem to catch what that is. 40 torched orchids, citronella, on and vagabond. That's all right.
Vagabond like repent. This shit should have been Beta Burns, Babylon, the end. The Lord 40 torched orchids and citronella for Algernon. Donna Vagabond like repent.
The vagabond, that's like somebody who's on you can't find their destination. Right, it's somebody who's they're kind of wandering place to place, which would actually play in part as what our troops were doing in Iraq. But again, Don in Vagabond, I don't get the reference. Vagabond as a word is what I'm breaking down.
The Lord 40 torched orchids and citronella for Algernon. Donna Vagabond like repent. This shit should have been Beta Burns, Babylon, the end. When the radio...
For those who don't know, well, beta is normally referred to as like beta testing, right? Which could mean like the games that we're playing in Iraq, right? Which would go with Babylon. For those who don't know, that's the city of Babylon is right by Baghdad, right? It's along the Euphrates River, in what's present day Iraq. So I think that kind of solves. This is definitely, I think, discussing the war in Iraq. But again, the beta turns Babylon the end. As you talked about, it should have been something quick. It's all right.
Fires catalog, 40 torched orchids and citronella for Algernon. Donna Vagabond like repent. This shit should have been Beta Burns, Babylon, the end. When the radio stars climbed up out of the floors to murder the medium that shot them 30 years before, they said when the cutters of the pine, there are summers in the sky. No love lost, baby, the future is so bright.
Kill television.
Nothing says charm like an armored car, taking the clone farm cards to the arms bazaar.
The arm bazaar.
Makers born at Port of Marshink in a right guard parts and march through the gauntlet of car alarms. No harps, no delusions, illusion with something prettier than ass around.
I gotta say, I'm getting so distracted by this sick beat, and I'm just kind of want to hear his flow. I've never heard this one, so it's like, man, I go, what's he talking about? I definitely get the feeling that he's still talking about being in this war-torn country, especially when he says things like
nothing says charm like an armored car.
Nothing says charm like an armored car. So he's in this armored vehicle. This is taking the clone farm tards. And it sounds kind of bad to say, but I think you might be talking about the U.S. military, right? Kind of like clone farm tards. And then he says to the Arms Bazaar. It's actually kind of funny. The Arms Bazaar, that's a reference to a book that's from the I want to say 70s or 80s, right? And it basically talks about how the defense industry has grown and how it's kind of in cahoots, right, with the government. So in the book, they explain how a system that it's basically produced to push weapons into new markets, right? So he starts talking about the role that governments play and basically how private companies are selling arms um, during wartime, right? And with the war in Iraq, again, we have Dick Cheney, who was a former CEO of Halliburton. Some would argue that he was the most powerful person in office at that time, feeding George Bush his information or decision making or whatnot. But he was definitely the most powerful vice president that we've seen in quite some time. There were a lot of contracts that Halliburton got that are what they consider no bid contracts. And you have to think about who was benefiting the most from this war in Iraq. And again, I'm not a history buff. It would be kind of good to redo this video and kind of go through some numbers. But then you start getting very conspiracy theory, and you can even get into 9/11 with that talk. But there's definitely quite a bit of information in that book. Again, it's called Arms Bazaar. So it's just kind of funny that he's mentioning that, and he's talking about the U.S. So this is definitely about the war in Iraq. One thing that's getting me is this chorus. When the radio stars climbed up out of the floors to murder the medium that shot him 30 years before. It almost sounds like a riddle, right? Like your substitute teacher will write this on the board, and whoever solves it gets a bathroom pass or whatever it might be. But it sounds like he's definitely talking about, I just say in context, if we have this war in Iraq, the one thing that really started around this time was what we now call fake news. There was a lot of misinformation at that time. And a lot of it came from our government. It came from our news stations. It almost seemed like we had to go into Iraq. And from there, it's like we were solving a science experiment moving backwards. And then we said, okay, how can we go in Iraq? What's something that can happen major in this world? What can happen to society that can make us change the way that we view national security? And I don't know what happened in 9/11. I think few people in this world truly know the ins and outs about that day. But it definitely seems like we were on a course to go into Iraq. Who knows? Maybe there were some sort of weapons or something that was so deadly they didn't want to give us the right answer or the right information. But it sounds like that we were deceived for whatever reason. I don't know. But the television, the radio had so much to do with that. By him saying the radio stars climbed out of the floors to murder the medium they shot 30 years before, I kind of think of the revolving door around new types of communication, right? If you're coming out of the window or coming out of the floors, maybe they were the ones dominating, right? There was radio shows, and then it was television, and now what's next. It'd be really interesting to see if he keeps the same course, or if he goes to other communication mediums later in the song. Like, does it evolve? Are we now talking, social media and search engines, or so? But it definitely sounds like he's bashing the U.S. in this song for the handling of the war in Iraq, or the reasoning, if you would.
Bent on the floors to murder the medium that shot him 30 years before, they said.
I like how his voice changes, not in the chorus. I don't think that's him. I don't think that's him at all, but I noticed when I played the next verse, it was different from the verse previous, and definitely different from the what did he say in the beginning? Christopher Columbus face, right? Where he says, I stood before the glittery borders or whatnot. But let it ride, let it ride.
The sky, no love lost, baby. The future is so bright.
Future is so bright.
Nothing says charm like an armored car, taking the clone form swords to the arms bazaar. We were the homemade marker makers, born at Port of Marshink in a right guard parts and march to the gauntlet of car alarms. No harps, no delusions, illusion was something prettier than right. Nothing says charm like an armored car, taking the clone form swords to the arms bazaar. We were the homemade marker makers, born at Port of Marshink in a right guard parts and march to the gauntlet of car alarms. No.
I always think of the videos of the U.S. military moving through Iraq, and there's just car alarms going off from bullets or missiles, and they're just kind of moving through. That's kind of the image I have in my head.
Makers born at Port of Marshink in a right guard parts and march to the gauntlet of car alarms. No harps, no delusions, illusion was something prettier than ash around a metacarpal, still clutching the teddy bears.
No harps or delusion. So he's saying like a harp, you normally think of like an angel or something. He's saying there's no delusion. You're losing something prettier than ash around the metacarpal, still clutching the teddy bears. The metacarpal, those are any of the 5 bones that are in the hand, right? So they're still clutching the teddy bears. We can run with. I think he's talking about the military in this sense, saying that they're afraid, where they're still clutching the teddy bears. But we can run with scissors. I think that most people would identify as it's dangerous to run with scissors. He's saying it's dangerous to move through the city space or situate the nuzzle with the subtle art of splitting hairs. So it's like it doesn't mean much. What you're arguing about doesn't matter.
Marshink in a right guard parts and march to the gauntlet of car alarms. No harps, no delusions, illusion was something prettier than ash around a metacarpal, still clutching the teddy bears. We can run with scissors through the city fair or situate the nuzzle with the subtle art of splitting hairs. Double park the shuttle, summer lark, the funnel, cuddy sark, we're budding narcs, target the gut.
He said cuddy sark. I don't know if you guys know what that is. I guess it's had different names. Most people, if you hear about it now, you're normally talking about like a nightie, a nightgown that your wife or so might wear, leaves her mostly exposed but somewhat covered. But cuddy sark is actually the name of a ship. The ships that were used to bring wool, right, from Australia to England. I mean, these ships carried just massive amounts of tea during that time. So it's actually named. It comes from an old poem. I don't know if it's that exact name, but that's actually where that name originates from, if you would. So it's just kind of funny that he's mentioning that.
Gushing heart in the muddy claw, park the shuttle, summer lark, the funnel, cuddy sark, we're budding narcs, target the gushing heart in the muddy clarks. These are the vices of the penoid bastards who will chew at every tablets, blur the axioms fastest. Vices of the penoid bastards, we're budding narcs, target the gushing heart in the muddy clarks. These are the vices of the penoid bastards who will chew at every tablets, blur the axioms fastest.
Blur the axioms faster. Wow. Penoid, obviously. These are the vices of the paranoid bastards who will chew whatever tablets blur the axioms fastest. You can interpret that to mean that there's assumptions that are being made beforehand, right? And then there's consequences based on those assumptions, which again would accurately. That's an accurate depiction, sorry, it's the weed in me, but it definitely referring to the war and the way that we manage the communication around that day.
This is the penoid bastards who will chew at every tablets, blur the axioms fastest. Crews lose lunches by the hundreds, lose electricity, lose gas.
Crews lose lunches by the hundreds. They're throwing up, or are they dying?
Fastest. Crews lose lunches by the hundreds, lose electricity, lose gas, phone, plumbing, humming. Keep your mouth closed, keep your cows cloned. Go. I am the post of this fucking townhomes. No. My with a convenient embargo. At least I'll always know what side of the gun I'm supposed to know.
Yo,
My with a convenient
it sounds like he's just bashing dudes in the United States. I don't know if it's still the military. Keep your cows cloned. Like, yo, in your country, like, who are we to tell people what they're doing wrong in their neck of the woods and putting our government in place? He's like, man, you guys clone cows, right? He said, I'm the pulse of this fucking townhome. Come on.
Go. I am the post of this fucking townhomes. No. My with a convenient embargo. At least I'll always know what side of the gun I'm supposed to.
For those that don't know, embargo is like a more official ban on trade, like with Cuba.
Keep your mouth closed, keep your cows cloned. Go. I am the post of this fucking townhomes. No. My with a convenient embargo. At least I'll always know what side of the gun I'm supposed to buy the farm from. The 2-4 gun kick, still in a box, fixed, still in a pill in a sock, chillin', gillin' a slot, and a million watch, Gideon scribes. But once the arc honor pussy and bribes, the animals will divide, and that's a win for the garish. Who keep charity in the parish while profiting off the lack of a marriage amongst the class. When the radio stars climbed up out of the floors to murder the media.
That is just so hard to break down. I don't even know what he's. And it definitely sounds like he's kind of bashing the mentality of the U.S. military or of our government.
You with every tablets, blur the axioms fastest. Crews lose lunches, but hundreds. Lose electricity, lose gas, phone, plumbing, humming. Keep your mouth closed, keep your cows cloned. Go. I am the post of this fucking townhomes. No. My with a convenient embargo. At least I'll always know what side of the gun I'm supposed to buy the farm from. The 2-4 gun kick, still in a box, fixed, still in a pill in a sock, chillin', gillin' a slot, and a million watch, Gideon scribes. But once the arc honor pussy and bribes, the animals will divide, and that's.
See, it definitely sounds like he's a million watch, Gideon scribes. But once the arc honors pussy and bribes, the animals will divide. Definitely sounds like he's talking about media and a division of people by once we honor what they're telling us. At least that's what I'm, even when you talk about Gideon, I believe if you actually search the meaning of Gideon, it means destroyer. And he said that's a win for the garish. Garish, I would say it's like gaudy, almost like tacky or flashy. At least that's how I know the word. Let's hear it in context again.
Still in a box, fixed, still in a pill in a sock, chillin', gillin' a slot, and a million watch, Gideon scribes. But once the arc honor pussy and bribes, the animals will divide, and that's a win for the garish who keep charity in the parish while profiting off the lack of a marriage amongst the class. Gideon scribes.
Definitely sounds like he went in on the church there, where he says that's a win for the garish. Again, these flashy, gaudy. Think of these pastors like, can I get a witness in here? Yeah. All right. We're going to give to the church today. We're going to send this little bowl around the way. That's kind of what I think of. And he said it keeps charity in the parish, right? It keeps the money within the church while profiting from the lack of marriage among the classes. I definitely think that, well, now looking at it, I don't think he's talking about, I think he's talking about the marriage of the people, people getting together, or people working together, the different social classes, possibly. Wow, that's just, it's incredible that somebody could write like this in a rap song, and it's so complex, but still such a good song, regardless of the meaning. I would be really interested to hear get someone's help on this breakdown, because this is definitely, if not the most complex, definitely one of the most complex I've heard from him. But I love it. So let's get into it. Looks like there's another verse here.
But once the arc honor pussy and bribes, the animals will divide, and that's a win for the garish who keep charity in the parish while profiting off the lack of a marriage amongst the class. When the radio stars climbed up out of the floors to murder the media and shot them 30 years before they said.
So it's the same chorus.
When the cutters of the pine through their summers in a sky, no love lost, baby. The
future is so bright. Ooh, beat change.
Yeah. Hold on, let me get one more though.
Ooh.
The mobile infantry is so postal, coasting to the quotient, provoking a local pistol Pete, choking his liberty and justice quotas and cloaking his folk in smithereens, smoky little pile of bloody pulp and codependencies. Dopey, no surrender, bender in effect. Soul defenders at the longest night, New York had never slept, and never jumping jacks and whistlers over Christmas, like rockets from the crypt, spilling a festive morning beverage in your breath. No surrender.
No, it definitely sounds like he's talking about the war in Iraq, because it sounds like he just referenced 9/11 there. Right here where he says, sole defenders of the longest night, New York has never slept. Of course, it's a city that never sleeps, but I believe he's referring to what caused or what led to the war in Iraq. Man, what a good song. Let's run that back. His flow is just sick in that. Beat change. Oh.
Yeah. Hold on, let me get one more though.
Let me get one more though.
Tree is so postal, coasting to the quotient, provoking a local pistol Pete, choking his
pissing off the locals
and cloaking his folk in smithereens, smoky little pile of bloody pulp and codependencies. Dopey, no surrender, bender in effect. Soul defenders at the longest night, New York had never slept, and never jumping jacks and whistlers over Christmas, like rockets from the crypt, spilling a festive morning beverage in your preference. I'm stepping hog heaven, stony with no weapons, pissing on.
Hog heaven, a lot of people use that. Means like completely satisfied, right? Something is unreal. You're at peace, if you would. Very happy.
New York had never slept, and never jumping jacks and whistlers over Christmas, like rockets from the crypt, spilling a festive morning beverage in your preference.
Ooh.
I'm stepping hog heaven, stony with no weapons, pissing on teleprompters, selling megaphones to hecklers who broadcast 80 million versions of the sermon for that one indisputable masterpiece before the curtains. Hail Arcadian moon, hot sermon, teleprompters, selling megaphones to hecklers. In hog heaven, stony with no weapons, pissing on teleprompters, selling megaphones to hecklers who broke heaven, stony with.
So it definitely sounds like he's talking about the communication while leading to the war in Iraq, because it was not just the media played a big part into convincing the people that it was okay to give up certain rights in order to get that war to move forward. There were also a lot of changes that stemmed from 9/11, like national security policies. I think he's talking about the spread of disinformation, if you would.
No weapons, pissing on teleprompters, selling megaphones to hecklers who broadcast 80 million versions of the sermon for that one indisputable masterpiece before the curtains. Hail Arcadian moon, high definition flat plasma, IMAX citywide transfer, artificial Einstein rosing out the tenement, easing to the Xanadu, let it hammer the tension out.
For those that don't know, the Einstein Rosen, he's talking about a wormhole, right? That's an Einstein Rosen bridge. It's basically a structure that connects two points in space, if you would, saying that you can manipulate that in a simple form.
Flat plasma, IMAX citywide transfer, artificial Einstein rosing out the tenement, easing to the Xanadu, let it hammer the tension out. Talking cool, calm, dominant.
Kind of funny that he says Xanadu. I don't know that I've ever heard that used. I believe it's actually a Mandarin word, but means kind of like the same as like a dreamland or a dream state that you're in. If I'm hearing that properly, but let me know in the comment section if you've ever used that in a sentence, and let me know if I'm right on that.
Xanadu, let it hammer the tension out. Talking cool, calm, dominant, phenomenal. Monitor face to the wall opposite. UFOs and locusts sing the same old song while the weathermen get retarded as the day is.
Definitely talking about the news.
The floors to murder the media that shot him 30 years before they said. When the cutters of the pine through the summers in the sky, no love lost, baby. The future is so bright.
Yo, I like this one. Yo, I could, man, I'd love the help. If you guys are good at the song, I know there's a lot of guys that love this music, and I'm probably broken this down many years ago. This was my first go at it, my first time hearing the song. This is probably now one of my favorites. I really like Pizza Alley. Their song just really stuck out to me. But there's definitely two or three I'd say on my top five list, but I've only heard probably 15 songs. But man, this has got to be one of the most difficult that I've ever broken down, and I don't even know if I was on the right track. So, yo, I hope you guys check out the video. Definitely subscribe to the station. I'm going to be getting into a lot more of his music, especially his older music. This one was for one of the subscribers, I Poop Hard, who actually mentioned that he was actually trying to break down this song. So I thought I'd give it a go. Hopefully, I did it some justice. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And yo, let's check out some more music.